Welcome to This Is the Future of Technology, because inside this seemingly innocent white box is the very first phone that has a camera underneath the screen. You've seen the notch, you've seen the hole punch, you've seen the forehead, but today we've got the under display, not fingerprint sensor, even though it has that, but the under display camera.
I mean, don't get me wrong, this concept is really cool, but now let's see how well it actually plays out, because we have now theoretically not quite 100% screen to body ratio. Yeah. We now can have close to that.
So we're going into this blind, pun intended. We essentially don't know anything about this besides some of the basics of the tech and the fact that this is the first commercial device that ships with a screen that is overlaying the camera.
And a lot of people have been asking for this for a long time.
Yeah. And
it's interesting that ZTE is the first one that is the one who does it, which often is the case with these Chinese brands. Oppo's usually a pretty big trendsetter when it comes to things like these. And I mean, that looks...
That's a nice little swirl action there.
That does look nice.
With my naked eye, I can, well, my glasses eye, I can see a little bit of a shadow. So let's see if we can see. Oh yeah, you see right there?
There it is.
There we go. So you can see a tiny little bit of a shade underneath the screen. But mind you, that is with the screen off. It's a 6.9-inch display.
Having used the Mini for so long, I hate how big this phone is. You can actually see, like, the pixels are a little different.
Whoa. Okay, so that's not what I expected at all. So we take a very close look at the top of the display here. It's gonna be really hard to see on camera, but essentially it looks like there's like a little like patch over where the camera is. Is this better or worse than you expected?
It's about as I expected.
Okay.
So I didn't think this was gonna be all that great. It is a brand new technology. It's the first one.
Yeah.
There's gonna be growing pains.
Sure.
Like it's only, because it can only get better from here. It's not that bad. Mm-hmm. But one thing I immediately noticed is as soon as you go into this, it's got this black bar here, which to me defeats the purpose of it.
Yeah, I will definitely agree.
I just don't see the point of that. So like,
they're hiding it. They're hiding it right now.
Exactly. It doesn't have any speaker grills on the front. Why do we have the chin then? If
I know that. They need the display drivers for the actual panel. So essentially when it comes to OLEDs, if you want to have essentially no like forehead and chin, you almost need to tuck the display circuitry around, which is expensive and difficult.
Yes, and it's something that like Apple does really well with folding their boards. But one thing that's driving me crazy with this right now, what's the visible screen is squared off up top and rounded here. The screen itself is rounded up top, but when it's not, but when they're adding that in there, I just like it's nitpicky, but they went through the trouble to make that a thing, and then they half-assed it by just making it squared off.
I can see it looks like a 50 pixel by 50 pixel square over the camera. Now this is certainly not a terrible thing, right? I will say that having a little bit of a like slightly different looking screen on that part is better than a camera, right? Like this is a step forward. But the real question is, what happens when we actually open up the camera? Okay, so normal camera, and let's flip it over and see what happens. Ready?
Little animation there.
I mean, this looks fine.
See, that's my point I was making. That looks fine.
Little fuzzy. Wait, let me turn off beauty mode. Oh no, beauty mode's already on. Okay, hang on. So mad flare though with the light behind you. Hang on, let me shade the light. Wait, there we go. So, all right, let's take a look at a photo and see what it actually looks like. Okay, well, first of all, stop burning in watermarks. I hate, that drives me crazy. Oh, actually, wait a minute, no, that's terrible. Why is that so soft?
And this is the point that I was trying to make, is that even like ZTE's cameras are just not that great when you compare them to other things.
There's clearly a sacrifice you make on two ends when you go for a setup like this. First of all, they're using, I believe it's some kind of like electrochromatic sort of, essentially it's almost, I don't know if it's necessarily another screen, but it's another layer that can turn on and off based on the voltage that's being applied to it. AKA, when you're using it as a normal phone, you've got that screen part which is over the actual selfie camera, right? So you can see that there's a little bit of a difference in texture, like the actual screen itself, like the pixels look different, right? But when you go to actually use it with a screen on, with the actual screen on, then what you see here is that the selfie camera gives you below average results. But what do you get in exchange, right? Because I mean, if we treat this not as like a look at the future, which it certainly is, right? I mean, this is going to give you a good look for what will almost definitely be a feature in future phones.
Yes.
Right? But if we look at it as this is the Axon 20, this is a phone that you're gonna go out and spend your hard-earned shekels on right now, you're gonna get a phone which has, at least on the selfie side, a compromised experience.
So this is much better in video mode than it is, I think, in the actual, just like the regular UI.
I don't have a problem with the screen. I think that's actually, I would much rather look at a very slightly like shaded, slightly weird section of my screen versus a camera which is sitting always there, whether it's hole punch, whether it's notch, whatever, right? I am okay with that. My only concern is the quality of the selfie camera, because I'm not really willing to give up that much form over function.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I'm curious, hang on. So let's try this. So there are other things that are built into this phone that are not just purely based around the camera. One of which are the speakers, which supposedly are, I mean, there's obviously a speaker grill on the bottom, but are also through the display. So let's actually crank it up and see how it sounds.
It doesn't sound
I don't
terrible,
think there's any, no,
but it sounds like one speaker.
There's nothing wrong with that, but I will say when I'm watching a video, I'm not noticing any real stereo effect. It very much seems like it's got one good speaker and like the barest hint of a little bit of like that glass actually vibrating.
Like it doesn't sound bad. It's definitely not stereo.
When it comes to hiding devices and tech and gadgets underneath the display, nothing in my opinion has actually been flawless so far, right? So any in-display fingerprint sensor so far that I've tried has always been at least a beat slower than one that would be on the side or the back. Finger move too fast. Yeah, see, it's kind of slow, right? I'm used to using like the Z Flip one, right? The Z Flip one is incredibly fast. Most of the physical ones, like the Pixel, are just like, I mean, I could literally just do this like 10 times and it's done. But this is like, wait.
One of the things I think is promising for this technology is why does it have to be right there now? Theoretically, you could just stick the camera right here. Always be looking in the middle of the screen, because
yeah.
When people are trying to like live stream or do whatever, usually they're looking at their own screen, they're looking at themselves.
That's a really interesting idea. Imagine being on a Zoom call and you're staring at the person in the middle and that's where the camera is. Mind you, the way this technology is, and I'm sure will be for the foreseeable future, when you do have that camera on, it has to go opaque, right? So you would see a little camera dot in the middle, but when that could go away whenever. Okay, so let me give you a little demo of the quality we're talking about. So we're gonna switch over to video mode and make sure that we're set up to 1080p 16:9. Sounds good to me. We'll go for high efficient, less space occupation. All right, so this is a demo of what the video looks like from the front-facing camera on the Axon 20. So as I kind of come around here, it looks fine, but what I'm really noticing here is just how, especially when you look at the lights, right? Obviously studio lights are always a little bit challenging when it comes to a front-facing camera, but you see how like sort of streaky everything looks? And if I get a little closer to myself, you see how smooth everything is. Now, in context, let me show you what it looks like on the Galaxy Z Flip. So flip this around here. For context, this is what a front-facing camera on the Galaxy Z Flip looks like. So this is taking advantage of a hole punch so that there's essentially nothing in front of the camera. It is very natural. As I look up to these lights, you can see that there's still, of course, some of that sort of flaring, right? So this is certainly not something that the Axon, like what we were showing is very much like the worst case scenario.
Right.
But
it's, I mean, you look at me, well, I don't have any lights in here. I don't have any of that ghosting that the Axon does. Like, it's actually sharp around my head, around my shoulders.
All right. Yeah, I mean, look, this is where we shoot here is a worst case scenario for a camera like this because you have all those lights that are aggressive. But I mean, you can be the judge of how much quality you lose compared to what I would say is a very average hole punch display. Now, for me personally, as of right now, into 2020, I still think that I would rather go with a very small hole punch that is always there, that is still, like the Z Flip kind of shows, small, not really huge and in the way. And in fact, some of the more recent Samsung phones have even smaller hole punches. I'll take that without taking the sort of sacrifice to image quality that this provides. However, I think with this ZTE, with the Axon 20, what they're doing is this is the very first generation of something like this, right? Yeah. If this is where we're starting, I feel good about it from a screen perspective, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a great place to start. I mean, I'll use the silicon MacBooks.
Yeah.
Again, if that's where we're starting,
Yep.
we're in a good spot to start. Is it noticeable? Yes. Is it a great camera experience right now? No. But it's, for a lot of people, good enough.
Yeah.
And it only gets better from here. I'm glad that someone did this, because it just kind of opens the door for, it's something that people are going to see and say, okay, well, I want this now.
Yeah.
It kind of like opens the floodgates.
Look, as of right now, I don't think I'm gonna go tell you to go out and spend your cash on an Axon 20 for the camera, right? It's a cool feature. I see why this is the first gen. I see why they put it on a upper mid-range phone, because I think this is the spot where you're probably willing to accept a little bit more of these compromises compared to if this was like a $1,200 or $1,300 like ultra premium flagship. I like the technology. I like the idea of it. To me though, at least as of right now, it feels like it's a touch too early, and the sacrifices that you're having to make don't quite make up for the benefit of having that all-screen display when in reality you have a little bit of a chen. And I mean, is a hole punch that offensive? I don't know.
I mean, I'll tell you that like from like an OCD standpoint, it's driving me nuts. Like I said, the fact that the chin is not symmetrical with the forehead, then there's the rounded edges versus the squared off edges. It does have like the slightly different screen there. It's a lot of like little nitpicky things,
yeah.
But as a whole, I don't like it.
Yeah.
But again, I'm glad that this is where we're at for version 1, because can't stress this enough, it only gets better from here. So
what do you think about the under-display camera tech inside the ZTE Axon 20? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe to This Is for more complaints about incredibly cool future technology. And until next time, we're gonna shoot our full next episode on the front-facing camera of the Axon 20. Because clearly, this is the kind of quality that you've come to expect from out of this gloriously wonderful, high-quality channel, right, Matt?
I feel like this is slightly better than we normally do.
Oh, look at that. So smooth.
I like that that's the joke now. What color is Matt's head today?
Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.